So this is track 3, and it is called The Hall of the Celestial Forces. I'm just going to jump straight into the story because I might as well. And I'll just say that, so for the first commentary, I talked about this other reality that unmade itself and then became this new one. Most people in this new reality don't know that there was a reality before that. As far as they know, they just know the world that they live in. But there are some people who know that there was a reality before that got unmade. And they are the Celestial Forces. They're basically these, I don't want to call them gods because they're not really. They're more like very powerful beings who are basically personifications of some kind of basic concepts of reality. So there's life and death, nature and culture, chaos and order, strife and peace, and balance. And they're all kind of like these big celestial forces. I don't know how to explain them, but they all have like roles in reality, and they're responsible for sort of making reality work. So day and night, the evolution of people over time, and cultures and stuff, and seasons and tides and conflict and anything you can think of that encompasses how their reality works is the Celestial Forces are responsible for making that happen. And they know that the reality so they were there, they existed in the first reality too, and they know that it got unmade and this new one got made instead. They also know that there was one other celestial force who is no longer with them, and that is Time, of course, who got killed by the king. I shouldn't say killed. Got attacked by the king, let's say that. So they know Time is missing, basically. That's caused them some issues because they need time to do time things because of the way that their powers work are very interdependent. So, for example, nature needs time because the seasons work within time, like and they happen in a certain order for a certain amount of time, and so time and nature work together to make seasons. So seasons are kind of funny in this world now because there's no time, essentially. So it's all little things like that. Like, so in some places they'll have winter for ages, and then it'll be spring the next day, and then it'll be summer, and then it'll be spring again, and it's like it flicks around and it doesn't make any sense. Nature's not very happy about the fact that there's no time, because nature liked time very much, actually, thank you very much, liked having their seasons in the right order. And there's all little things like that, so they've had to like make patchwork solutions. So for example, things like they still have day and night because life and death sort of like, well, the start of a day is kind of like the birth of a day, and night is kind of like the death of a day and life of night. So they sort of made it work. They patched things together, so they still have things like day and night. People still die because obviously there's life and death still there. Things still develop because you've got all of them together. There's still balance, but things are a bit funky and they're not quite happy with it. And as far as they know, time is missing, but they know that time isn't dead because they can still sense time, essentially. So they've sort of been trying to figure out what the hell happened to time, because they don't know what happened. They just know that something attacked time and then everything got unmade. And so they've been looking for time for ages, and I'm not sure who, but one of them finds Ruin and Forrest and realises that this sense of time that they were feeling is stronger around them, and they realise that, well, they decide to pick them up and take them to the Hall of the Celestial Forces to show them to the others. Actually, I think they talk to the others first, and then they all decide that they're going to grab them and take them. So they know they're coming. But for Ruin and Forrest, it's a bit of a surprise. So they're just sort of, as we left them off in the last track, they're sort of wandering around together, exploring the world, happy just on their own, not with anybody else bothering them. And then suddenly this very powerful entity just scoops them up and decides to take them somewhere, and they don't have much choice in the matter. And so for the first part of the track, that is them being taken to the hall. So you can hear like a slight variation of the reality theme, and that's because they're watching. I sort of imagined it as they got picked up and they were flown there. So then they can see the world that they know beneath them going past so fast because they're being taken so far away, and they're like, whoa, this is our world, and we're being taken to somewhere that we don't know about, somewhere completely new. But the reality theme is also important because it's relating to the celestial forces being kind of like the pillars of that reality and how it works. But I'll get more into that in a minute. So they get taken to the hall and they end up in the hall. And then, so they're very small compared to these giant celestial forces, who are shapeshifters, by the way, so they can look how they like, but they have a human form that they take on, but the human form is very large. So you can they're like giants basically. So you imagine these tiny little Ruin and Forrest at the bottom, and then just staring up at these massive towering forces. And one of them crouches down, and this is Culture. And they say when I was writing this track, I was sort of imagining this scene and this dialogue. So I don't know how well the track works as a standalone track, but because it's very much in the narrative. But when I listen to it, I can hear this scene, see this scene, hear this dialogue, and the line that Culture says is the tune, and that is the Celestial Forces theme. And what she says is, well, I'll tell you exactly what the lyrics are. It's there are stories older than the world you know. There are songs that were sung before the sun ever shone. There are beings more ancient than the mountains and the snow, and I know since I am one. And then all the celestial forces sing together, yes, each of us are one. And Ruin and Forrest are a bit like, okay. And so, and then the next line of melody that you hear is, you hear Ruin and Forrest theme. Throughout this album, a lot of the time when I started a little bit that was about Ruin or Forrest, I tend to have them like introduce themselves with their little bit of theme. So, and you can hear it at the start of, hear it here. So Forrest basically goes, well, I'm the Forrest, and Ruin's like, and I'm the Ruin. And Forrest immediately tries to flatter the celestial forces. He's like, oh, well, we're really honoured to be here in your amazing presence in this amazing hall. Because he's like, oh, we're gonna die. So, and he's like, they don't realise why they're being told this information by these forces. Because they've obviously heard of them because they exist in this world. The mortals in this world know about the forces. They kind of, I don't want to say worship them, but sort of do, yeah. It's a bit like Greek gods, I guess. But Ruin, even though she's I think they're both really nervous, but she's like, whereas Forrest is like, oh, we should flatter them and endear ourselves to them, Ruin just straight up goes, why are we here? Like, what do you want with us? And you can hear that little bit of dialogue in their themes there. And then I think it's Culture again. She says, well, you are also one of those beings that's older than this world. And Ruin's like, okay, so you think that we were two of you guys? And they kind of sort of believe it because they know that they're different. They know that they have powers, but they also think, well, we are also just very small humans who can shapeshift into birds, but not be massive creatures like you. So they're sort of not sure. And then Balance says, no, we know that you were one. You weren't two, you were one. Because, you might have guessed this, but Ruin and Forrest were time. And so when the king split time down the middle, it actually cut time into two. And when the new reality was made, therefore, time became these two human form immortals, basically, Ruin and Forrest. And I think I'm not sure if it was like a defense mechanism because Time got so badly hurt, or if it was just part of the nature of the injury and that Time was so badly injured that they became these two forms rather than staying as a celestial force. But yeah, so it's like that's why there's a connection between Ruin and Forrest as well, as I mentioned in the last video. So because they're two parts of the same entity from this other reality, but they're also separate. It's kind of hard to explain, but I think you get me. So then Ruin and Forrest are both like, what? But it also makes a lot of sense because they know that they can control time and they can control different aspects of time, because Ruin can slow it down and Forrest can speed it up. And they know that they're immortal, so it kind of makes sense that they're this kind of otherworldly creature, but it's still kind of a big deal. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I think I will explain more about what happens next in the next commentary. But yeah, so this is basically them finding out that they are not what they thought they were. Well, not that they knew what they were anyway, but now they know. Yeah, so regarding themes and stuff, I mentioned a bit about the reality theme as well. The only thing really to say, I guess, is that the celestial forces underneath Ruin and Forrest's dialogue, you can hear them singing the reality theme again, and that's, like I said, it's because they're like the pillars of this reality. They're fundamental to how it works. So that's why they sing it, I guess, and it sounded cool underneath. At least I thought so anyway. So yeah, that's pretty much it, I think. So if you have any questions, let me know. I'm working on character designs for all the celestial forces as of recording this commentary. I might have finished them by the time I actually post this. We'll see. But I might do like a little commentary or video showing all the character designs and talking more about each force and what they do and what they're like, because they've all got their own character and lots of like symbology, I guess, to go with them. Because I like thinking about how the mortals of this world see them and how they actually are. So, but yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed.